Hello there, and welcome back to a developer interview. I'm here with game director Ion Hazzikostas. Hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
great. Yeah, happy to be here at Gamescom. And, it's a somewhat interesting few days. A couple things going on.
Yeah, just, early access last night. As of the recording this, it was last night, literally, 14 hours ago at launch. So,
Yep. We're sitting here like 60 or so hours from launch.
I guess, actually, I don't have this, but I'm kind of curious. Like, how has, like, the idea of early access been? This is, like, an interesting challenge in regards to, like, World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I think it's something that we wanted to be very thoughtful about and get lots of feedback about. I'm glad that I think we did a sufficient, as of now, we've done a sufficient job of locking down things that could give a long-term competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And there really hasn't been any discussion or perception that like, the way to prepare for season 1 and maximize your item level, you have to have early access. Ultimately, it's just, giving people a bit more flexibility and a head start on leveling, but everyone will end up at the same place down the line.
I think for a server load thing as well, you're kind of splitting up as well, which must be nice.
Also that, I think first 12 hours have been quite smooth overall. And I think we have a very high level of confidence. We actually did catch a couple of issues that would have been an issue, but would have been more problematic had everyone hit them at the same time. And I think Monday is going to be a good day.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can't wait. All right, let's dive into my question. I've been asking every developer ever, and it's like the worst kept secret ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dracthyr, we've had, the evokers obviously in Dragonfly. I think in a group interview you mentioned that, the idea is to expand that.
Yes.
And I guess the elephant in the room is what classes can we expect from the Dracthyr in a future update?
I think we'll have the details on that, I think, in the pretty near future. So rather than kind of fully preempting or scooping future patch notes, I think Dracthyr, say narratively, have now emerged into Azeroth as a whole, integrated themselves with broader society in Azeroth, and they're clearly, very adept combatants, and there's no reason why they can't quickly master the basic trades like hitting you with a weapon or any particular learning spell casts. They should be able to cast Frostbolt and swing an axe and hit you and things like that. They're not going to be able to train to bears and cats. So I'll say, let's,
all right,
I'll lay some ground rules there. Like, yes, warrior mage, no druid, more TBD.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't think we'd have a full list, but so kind of completely kind of different. So recently saw the WoW Classic team had like a new Twitter account for like communication on that, which I thought was a great idea because a lot of the Classic team do communicate through Twitter and things like that, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. Could we see something like that for the modern team? We do have Warcraft devs, but it's kind of sat dormant for a little bit.
Yeah, we could. It's something, with the size of the team and the number of different things we have going on, it's something we've continued to discuss, like what the most effective way is to get communication, to get information out there, also to, be as transparent as possible. There were times in the past, going back almost 10 years at this point, where there was a lot more direct dev presence on Twitter, and it could feel like you needed to, follow 24 different people if you wanted to really keep up with everything that was going on in the game. We don't want to get back to that place. But I think we definitely would like to be more active and, just to have more channels for people to follow. Yeah. So it's something we're discussing.
Yeah, I think in general, communication's been a lot better than it was many years ago.
I appreciate that.
It's good. So, man, I did not put these in any kind of order. Glory achievements for dungeons.
Yes.
Now, we saw Glory to the Delvers come in, which is awesome. I'm very much looking forward to that. The fact we can just do the whole thing alone. I'm going to definitely do that.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a glory achievement for dungeons. Now, I think we had one for like Mythic Zeros to do it as tank, healer, and damage, which I thought was quite cool.
Yes.
It's a new thing.
It's the kind of thing that we can do now that we have warbands more readily, and just kind of, this is something for your range of characters to do.
Yeah. But we didn't get a glory achievement for dungeons. What's the story there?
Our kind of thinking is that the sort of traditional do the dungeon boss in a weird way type achievements, or like collect all these hidden things while doing the boss, honestly have a little bit outlived their value. I think they were really compelling and interesting when first introduced way back in Wrath, when achievements were new, and there's only one dungeon difficulty. There's 2 dungeon difficulties, but after Heroic, the way that you kind of flexed and showed off mastery of the content was trying to do these fights in harder ways. What that's turned into in more recent years with multiple difficulties is people just waiting until they massively outgear them and then stopping them in a world where the mechanics and the encounters aren't relevant and you're just doing a specific achievement mechanic.
Yep.
And it's not interesting enough, frankly, to warrant the development time. I think we'd rather our encounter designers are putting their thought and their resources into both encounter mechanics, into new Mythic Plus affixes, into things along those lines. And so, they're going to achieve those, no worry.
Yeah, understandable. You mentioned Mythic Plus. That's a good one. Sure. Makes one. So we've seen, I think the original thing was like you wouldn't go back too far, but I think the kind of limit at the moment is Cata dungeons, right? Is there a world or any possibility in the future to go further back than Cataclysm for Mythic Plus?
Oh, I think I don't want to say never, right? I think we want to be flexible. I think we recognize the further back we go, the more overhaul has to be done to the dungeons, which we're fine doing, but it also transforms them somewhat from their original experience. Like Rivet Hole has significant changes. Exactly. Whereas the more recent dungeons don't. And there's also, I think, a visual fidelity aspect to it. I think we're proud of the way that the overall look and feel of the game has held up. But we put a dungeon in a seasonal rotation. We're inviting players to spend dozens plus hours in that space over the course of the season. And at some points, some of them are a bit too dated.
What do you mean? Dead Mines is amazing.
Noted.
So kind of talking about, so I played a lot of beta and I did a lot of Awakening the Machine, right? And that had so many changes and reworks over the course of beta, which was really interesting. So every single build I'd go in and be like, this is new, this is different, this is completely scrapped, like different parts of it. The question is like, what was the idea behind the system and like, how did that change over development?
I feel like high level, the goal is just to have, an interesting world event associated with that zone, with that renown, alongside the other things that are, flavorful in the different zones as well. I think as we were playtesting it and getting feedback on it internally, as well as in alpha and beta, there was a sense, or beta mostly, there was a sense that it was, could be very long with up to 50 waves originally, that was just like, people didn't know what they were getting into initially. It could feel tedious. Often it did feel tedious, could be frustrating if things didn't go your way. And so I think, the changes were made more to focus it and still have wrapping difficulty, something that feels like you need to earn your rewards at different tiers, but with multiple tries added over the course of a period of time so that, you don't feel frustrated if something goes wrong on one attempt. But again, try to get the length of the overall experience down to like 15 minutes or so max, as opposed to before, like some people were close to an hour, which is just, that's a lot for an outdoor world activity.
Yeah, I think at one point it just kept scaling forever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a rough idea that went through a lot of refinement and iteration, and that's part of the point of
I guess that's the point of like beta. Yeah, it's true. So with delves, I'm a big delve fan.
Cool.
I play a lot of delves, so I don't dungeon or raid a ton. So delves are like I really enjoy. I guess going into the future of the War Within and beyond, what can we expect from delves? Can we expect more delves, more tiers? Like, what's the kind of like? I guess I assume most of it's based on feedback. Like, kind of where are we at with delves right now?
I think I would almost certainly be able to give you a much more precise answer in a few weeks, because I think, as you said, a lot of it is going to be based on feedback. And as we've seen, with systems in the past, like Torghast or whatever, the way people play on beta is different from the way people play and how they experience it and what they're looking to do when they're doing it as part of a routine, as part of something that's chasing rewards, as opposed to just because I want to check it out on beta. But I think it's going to be seasonal activity. We are looking at, the new patch brings a new zone. Well, zones probably have a couple of delves in them. We've said that Bran is your seasonal companion for season 1. Season 2 would have a different seasonal companion, and then we'll see what else we want to change and refine.
That's exciting.
Cool.
So I guess kind of adjacent to that, the world row in the Great Vault, which is amazing. So as I said, so good now that I get a vault every week to either be happy or sad. But I guess one thing I noticed on beta was beyond delves, the only thing that personally I could find that would do things on the Great Vault for the world row was the theater troupe. the world boss. I think those.
Yep, Wibbly Machine also should.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it's basically snuffling as well.
Okay.
I think it's major events and kind of the special requests that you unlock after doing a few in his own. The idea is like that's just the baseline of activity. If you don't set foot in any delves in a given week, but you do, X major objectives, you'll get a baseline level of rewards from doing that in your outdoor row in the vaults. And then, of course, if you do higher tier delves, that will replace that. Think of that as like doing normal dungeons or doing rare dungeons or something instead of the plus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's like a lower tier.
Exactly. But I think really one of the central goals with that row was making it so that basically every end game player can engage with the vault. You can have that experience of disappointment.
I'm excited for it. I also saw that tier drops from the vault for delves as well, so I was pretty excited about that. So speaking of delves, the Delver's Journey, that's obviously coming in at some point. I guess the question is really like, can we expect that during Heroic Week, or would that be something that comes in a week after a season?
That would start at the beginning of season 1. That's just part of that is your idea as your season journey with that really, and as part of season 1 delves, you can over the course of your experience progress down that track and unlock a bunch of cool stuff.
The way to progress it, actually, so there's a weekly quest, obviously.
Yes.
It's kind of like the main bulk of it, but is that progressed through any tier of delve, or is it just from tier 8 or above?
No. Actually, any tier of delve.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's that is not a, we have exclusive rewards for pushing the highest levels of difficulty. And if to get to the 13th delve and do it on the highest difficulty, there's cool stuff there for you. The Delver's Journey is really for everyone. It's just, it's participation, and of course, success, and doing it at higher difficulties may speed your journey, may speed your progress. But everyone who plays delves over the course of the season should be able to fill that bar.
Yeah, so it's count wide as well. So
yeah,
fantastic. I did write this one down, but I'm sure you know the answer. The Zekvirs Lair, is that unlocked by completing the Delver's Journey, or is it completed? Because I think, or maybe it was mentioned once that it was like do all tier 11s, which I'm not sure if that's still the case or whatever. But is it?
It is less than that. Honestly, I don't 100% recall the exact equivalence off the top of my head. It's not connected to the Delver's Journey. The Delver's Journey, again, is cosmetic tier progression. Effectively, it's not unlocking content. The general progression will be you do a variety of delves. Once season 1 starts, you will encounter Zekvirs as he occasionally ambushes you as you're going through the delves. Over the course of that experience, once you have done enough delves, you're able to track him down to his lair and then face him there.
Is that just going to have one difficulty?
No.
Oh. Okay. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, because I saw another interview they were talking about it's like a mage tower sort of thing.
That's
that
exactly. That I mean, it ties into the difficulty system, right? And so that's sort of the story conclusion of the delve arc that we want every person who's into delves to be able to experience. But then if you want to do him on max difficulty solo, there's some, if you want a void variant of the delve mount, that's how you're going to get it, and you have to do it solo.
That's awesome. Actually, speaking of the delve mount, is that something we can expect to continue progression beyond season 1? So I guess more customization?
Likely so, yes.
Yeah, thought so. Awesome. So where are we at? Let's do story mode in the War Within. So that's coming out on Road Week, I think.
The week after.
So as far as I'm aware, there's no rewards or anything like that from it. So if you just say,
and I think the quest to defeat Queen Ansara will have a reward. Right. Do it in story mode will let you complete that. Okay. But it's really designed for the story. It's not, unlike LFR, it's not designed to be a repeatable experience. It's not about mastering the raid mechanics. It's for people who actually aren't interested in the raid mechanics, frankly, but want to see the end of the story of Ashgahed after playing through the rest of it.
Makes sense. Could we see expanded in the future? I guess obviously it's the first iteration of it. Obviously we had follower dungeons, things like that. Is there, could we see it continue in the future, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, the intent and the goal would be to have a story mode where specifically the bosses that are story important, that have quests to defeat them. The random wandering dog that is a boss. That's there because it's cool and it's fun to fight. And that's part of the raid experience, but it's not necessarily part of the narrative experience. But we want to make sure that, you have these major enemies that are built up over the course of all of our questing and the stories we tell. everybody should be able to have those experiences, whether they're into the raid gameplay or not. So to use an example, actually going back a bit, like imagine in the 9.2 patch in Shadowlands, we would have had story mode for Anduin and for the Jailer. Because those two were the bosses that are like, these are really important. There's cinematics associated with them. Everyone should experience that. Halandris, my Halandris in the raid if you want to.
I'm sure they would love to as well.
Exactly.
So shifting on to collection things. So collecting WoW is, again, something that I partake in quite a lot. We've seen add-ons, think like all the things that have kind of evolved gameplay and the way that people play the game. Is there, any potential in having things like that built into the game directly? Like percentages of zones and things like that?
I think, yes, that's something that you would like to do. To be perfectly honest, I think it's a slightly lower priority than other controlled add-on, UI improvements
that maybe lessen the importance of add-ons in other areas. Like we'd like to do more with, let's say, nameplates or tracking your cooldowns. Because I think that has a more visceral impact versus easy access as a completionist. But in the long run, I'd love to have some massive compendium of the things you have and don't have, and bars to fill and tracking. It's just a question of priority.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life with Warcraft now. Also, thank you for adding class tier sets and things with the collection stuff. Like,
absolutely,
my goodness, that was the one pain point, and I was like, it's happening.
Yes,
so very much look forward to that. So I was kind of curious on one thing that I saw on beta, and now it's obviously gone to live. Skyriding, you get at level 10.
Yes.
And then steady flying is at 20. So what's the kind of thought process behind having that kind of split between the two there?
I mean, some of it is just that's mirroring the quest content and the original progression of Dragonflight. When you learned dragon riding at the start of Dragonflight, Ill Awakening Shores, and that was just related to your journey through the zone. And so similarly, when players first arrive there from Exile's Reach, that's the mode of travel that you get. I think it's what the vast majority of players use and prefer most of the time. But it has its place, and certainly for accessibility reasons. And rather than Pathfinder just having it become available a little bit later as you leveled, made sense.
Is dragon riding, Dragonflight Pathfinder gone then? Is that in for new players? Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. Man, these are so random. So, hero talents came in. I really like there was a trailer yesterday. It came out. It was amazing. It showed off all the hero talents and stuff. That was really cool. Is there any lore behind our characters having hero talents? Like at all? Like,
they're honestly, you can make up the lore. I mean, at some point, as you become an expert and a master of the arcane arts or the fell arts, you gain access to the methods and secrets that have been used by great champions. When we were first thinking about the idea and pitching it internally, we considered having like a slightly heavier, almost narrative components to these choices, having a character that's training you. We backed away from that idea, honestly, for some of the same reasons as players gave us visceral feedback around Covenants and the idea of tying too heavily like fantasy with mechanics. And so we just said, you know what, like let's just pick the mechanics that suit you best. We don't need to also like tie this to content.
Yeah. That's understandable. I think it will kind of take you out of it, honestly. If you are Dawn and you're like, right, got to head over to a class or something.
Exactly.
So the Harronir have popped up in on the game, and I think we've already met like 2 or 3 or something like that. Not many of them, but they're very, very interesting. A bit of a fan favorite already.
They are.
And heavily featured in the promotion. How important is this race going forward, would you say?
I would say really important. I mean, I think, one of the fun things about the World Soul Saga is that it gives us, knowing where we're going to go and having longer term plans that we haven't had at times in the past, we can plant those humans in foreshadow. And they're present, they're mysterious. We'll learn more about them in due course, but they're obviously not central to this part of the world event.
Excellent. That's a cheeky little tease. I like that. I guess the final one, I think that's the last one I've got, but Timewalking. Yeah. So we saw Time Running, or it was renamed to
Remix.
But Timewalking's been kind of, a bit quiet, a bit dormant, I guess, as, is there anything we'd expect from Timewalking in the future? Like, potentially BFAs?
I think That seems likely.
We may also be using some time walking stuff as a vehicle for anniversary celebrations in the near future. We'll have more information to share on that probably in a couple weeks.
That's exciting. Yeah, I love time walking. I think Remix as well was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So big fan of that.
Yeah, that's and the team is similarly like reflecting on lessons learned from Remix and plotting their next move there. I think it's safe to say you haven't heard the last of the Remix concept.
I see it on Twitter all the time. People made like fan art, like logos, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's the best ever."
Which expansion do you think we should do next?
Oh man, I guess it depends how it's done, but I think probably Legion would be very good. Even Battle for Azeroth could be potentially quite good because there's a lot of great content in there. But yeah, it's interesting. Things like Legion, for example, is like you have the artifact weapons, but I guess that system on the back end is kind of depleted of sorts. I don't know if you bring that back. Either way,
cool. Okay,
very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, write it down. But that's it. Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you very much, Ian, for your time. And it was a pleasure chatting.
Thank you.
Absolutely.